Hey guys, it's BlockchainBrad, and today, once again, I'm very honored to speak with Zhongxing Ming. He is the CEO of Blockcloud, and he's here to explain everything they've been doing lately. And obviously that's for all of the community because it allows you a means in which you can be informed and updated on exactly what they stand for and what they've been doing in terms of tech and business developments. So thank you so much, Zhongxing, for being here and explaining all about Blockcloud at the moment.
Hi, Brad. Thank you so much for the interview. I'm so glad to see you again.
Likewise, mate, and thank you again for your time. I know you're very busy. You have a lot of appointments today. Now, I just want to quickly go through a few things to recap. You stand for essentially a blockchain-based Advanced TCP IP architecture. Sounds complicated, but really it's just a layer zero solution, much like the iterations of the net when we first saw it emerge. So just give us a bit of a rundown on why this matters, why you need a layer 1 zero solution, and why it's agnostic, or how it can be.
Yeah, so as most of us know that the current TCP IP architecture, that is the fundamental technology of the internet, was designed about 50 years ago. And at that time, the designers and scientists didn't think much about the mobility problems, the credibility problems, and they didn't think that there would be so many devices on the planet. So in the face of IoT and computing and everything, I think maybe in about 5 or 10 years, most electronic devices will be connected to the internet, and most of them are moving or dynamic. So the current internet architecture cannot support those scenarios very well. For example, if I give you some examples, like if you are in a very crowded area, you might have the experience that your Wi-Fi access is really bad. Or if you are traveling on a very high-speed train, your internet access is not good.
Yes, it happens to all of us all the time. Yeah. Even close to our homes, we have those problems.
Yeah, so that's because the a legacy internet architecture wasn't designed for supporting those kind of scenarios. That's why we need to evolve its architecture to support our future use cases. And that's why we are doing a new TCP IP layer to improve the current internet. And why do we need to integrate blockchain technology is that it is a very, very powerful weapon for us to provide credibility to the layer zero solution. And also it can provide incentives for both the industry side and the customer side to use the new technology.
All right, and you raise a really good point I want to explore with you, and that is that dual approach. Many of the top tier projects are certainly looking at not just at the public access or a public chain, but they're looking at ways in which you can provide that blockchain as service, that revenue generating model, and we'll really explore that today. But I just want to go back a little bit more with regard to the TCP IP. Now, you say layer zero, that implies also the potential to utilize and onboard multitude of blockchains. Talk us through that value add as well, because there's so many platforms that now have emerged with high scalability, public chains that potentially have dApps onboarding. Is there value for Blockcloud in that context?
Yes, I think so. But I think Blockcloud is very unique in this space in that we are not particularly designed for a layer zero solution for blockchain itself. We are a layer zero solution for the internet. So because the blockchain technology is run on the internet, so beneath other technologies, we can literally support other either private chains or public chains, because we provide a better internet environment.
Right.
And yeah,
that makes a lot of That makes a lot of sense because essentially you're that bedrock for the entire redesign of the web. And that also harks back to your consensus. You have a very unique system. You involve a CODAG as well. Talk us through that and why that's relevant, as well as your proof. Is it your proof of service? Is that the name of the consensus?
So we have two fundamental consensus mechanisms. One is CODAG. It's a fast data a transaction recording system that's used to record the transactions. Another consensus mechanism is called proof of service. That is used for providing the internet or the layer 0 solution with credibilities for the services provided to the network.
Okay.
And yeah.
Right, and we could go into detail if we want to have a really long tech discussion in another interview, but certainly the most important thing with that is that they're done, in the sense that they're functional, they're operational, and tested.
We have a CODAG testnet implemented, and we are going to release some of our testing reports.
Right, okay, and we can expect them in the coming months?
Maybe, but in the coming months, that would be Chinese New Year. So I think it might be around March.
Okay, so in the coming months, in the next few months, we can expect them. That's great. Now, I want to address some of the claims that Blockcloud have made, because it's been a little while since we've spoken last. One of them explains that you are the first blockchain platform with a uniquely fast and efficient consensus mechanism. Now, we've discussed the mechanism itself, but how can you say that you're uniquely fast when we see that fast is the catch cry? Everyone's talking about being fast.
That's a very good question. So by being fast, I think there are several perspectives for Blockcloud. I think it's mainly because of our CODAG architecture. So for the CODAG architecture, literally the speed of the whole system is not limited. As long as you have enough computational power and you can set the number of layers of codec to be arbitrarily high, so the speed of the network can be arbitrarily high. But that is the theoretical mathematical model. But in reality, because of the limitations of hardware and the network performance and the some other constraints, the speed might not go to a arbitrarily level, but we can always adjust the parameters of this system to make it suitable for the real use case. And literally, the speed of this system can always evolve with the improvement of the hardware.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is that, you know, there can be the consistent upgrade, you know, that the fact that scalability can be improved. But what I was wanting to ask is, how is the proof going? The proof of the scalability, the proof of the speed in you know, testnet phase or in some of the internal assessment of your productivity and your efficiency?
Yeah, so currently, as from two perspectives, one is the mathematical model. We have proved it mathematically, and another is our testnet. For our testnet, we have just built a small testnet, and the small testnet we got about 20 to 50 servers to build a very small testnet. According to our testing results currently, the real performance of a codec perfectly meet our mathematical model.
Right. So fundamentally, you're on track for the purpose. That's what I want to make sure is that the assessments are there for the utility and the functionality. Because recently, one of the CEOs did explain to me that what's paramount is the user experience. And I think that's fair to say. Do you feel confident that when you hit that utility mark when you start to be active in the ecosystem that you've built and the economy, that you can actually function because of the proper technology provisions.
Yes, I'm confident.
Okay. Now, what about with regard to security? How have you built that in? How is that going? And are you upgrading the potential of your technology to ensure security?
That's a very good question. So in codec, it is a hybrid consensus mechanism that we combine the advantages of stack-based data structure and the depots structure to defend the attacks. And we have mathematically proved that the way it defends double spending problem has the same effects like Bitcoin.
Okay, so it's highly provable in that sense. So that's a big statement to make, because there's no better than that standard, and you're saying you meet that standard of security. So big call there, and obviously that core tech of the CODAG brings together the DPoS, value as well as the POW. So in terms of theoretical provability standards.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that you say that. What about your patents? I noticed that you've had 5 patents recently. Recent software copyright upgrades. 5 software copyrights also that Blockcloud have made.
Yeah, we have submitted our application for that patents to the authority, and also we have applied 1 international patent. Yeah, all of them are under processing.
I see. Is that starting with China first?
Most of them are China first, but one of them is international.
Okay, and you can't tell us the nature of those, I suspect.
You mean the name?
The nature, what these patents are about, what they're for.
Oh, I can let you know the. I can tell you the what. So one is about codec. One is about there are many of them. So one is about codec. One is about the Blockcloud architecture. One is about the proof of service consensus mechanism, and one is about service-centric networking.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, in a nutshell, the reason why you have these patents, and I would imagine more to come, is to really protect the integrity of your technology, so it cannot be appropriated. It can't be simply copied, so that people can then capitalize on all the work you've been putting in. And that's really important. And we'll talk about why later with the enterprise component of your whole ecosystem. Let's talk about incubation for a moment, and then what your strategy to build this out. I would assume with the 2 universities that you're directly linked with a very substantial team, that you're building this out as well.
Tsinghua University and Hong Kong Polytechnic University. And what we can, I can tell you now is that we have formally signed a contract with Tsinghua University so Tsinghua University is now incubating us. So it's formally signed.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. So we have formally established a incubating lab for not only Blockcloud, but also for future internet technology and blockchain technology in China, with the formal support of Tsinghua University and local government.
Wow. So that means that you're basically building out the potential to onboard into the new web that you're building, so that you build out the capacity of the entire infrastructure.
Yeah, and Tsinghua University has helped us to get that contract with the local government.
Right, that's a big deal, because for those who don't know, Tsinghua University is #1 in terms of technology in China, and I would assume that the Hong Kong Polytechnic University that you mentioned would be high up there for that country as well.
Yes, and also, so let me tell you one more thing about Tsinghua. So Tsinghua now is helping us with a very good contract with a very large enterprise in China.
Tell us more. This sounds really interesting. So a
So
really big enterprise?
that enterprise is a really, really large group, and it has many factories, has many internet enterprises, and they are we are talking to us, and they are very, very interested in using Blockcloud technology for their edge computing scenarios.
Okay, so let's just recap this. This is really interesting. So a really large enterprise or essentially consortium, I'm not sure how because I'm only guessing from the information you can give us, but clearly big and linked to Tsinghua through connections. Now, with regard to the token, I just want to ask you, will that mean that they'll utilize your token if you do eventually establish some sort of formal contract and agreement with them? Could that build the value of Blockcloud?
Yes. So, there is a province in China called Hainan. So, Hainan has a very unique policy for cryptos, and it is the only local government that can talk cryptos and can use cryptos in some ways. And together with that enterprise, we are going to have a test environment in Hainan province to integrate both Blockcloud technology and Blockcloud tokens.
Okay, that's also really significant because, and there was a bit of a noise then, I suppose relates to this important point, in that China has become quite serious recently with regard to its position on crypto. Yes. And made some national statements with regard to specifically Chinese nationals and how you can and can't engage in crypto. How does that affect Blockcloud? Does it have an adverse or negative effect, or is it actually good because it provides regulation and structure?
Although Chinese government is strongly regulating the cryptos, it continuously encourage blockchain technology.
Right.
And because we are not scammers, we are we are a long-term technical project, so we have a very good environment for development.
And in that respect as well, Zhongxing, is that your token, that fuel, that core element, that fundamental voucher representation of your whole ecosystem, is that something that is supported by China? Can you have that as the mechanism of value?
Currently, I don't think we can use it in China mainland, but so Hainan is one possible place that the Chinese central government is regulating the cryptos, but it still opens a door for it in Hainan. So we are trying to test it in Hainan, and also we are not limited to China, I think. So we can develop technologies in China, but the Blockcloud is used to serve the whole world.
Sure. Now, in that respect, let's talk through this because obviously people want to know. Clearly, you're planning on going global, and I would assume you've also got global enterprise interests that you're going to be working with, and we can discuss that. But let's say, first off, that this company that you're discussing with, this significant enterprise party, will do a deal with you. Obviously, they're going to be purchasing or interacting with the token in some way through some sort of mechanism you put in through your registration in the region you've registered.
Yes, and also, so if that is successful, so that company can also sell their devices to the countries, not only in China. So they have business all over the world, not just in China.
Okay, so this is a real business. What do you say to those people, Zhongxing, who argue that BTC is the fundamental and the only point of value in all of blockchain, all of cryptocurrency? They take a maximalist maximalist position. They have a very unique libertarian kind of ideal.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to that, given all that you know about the potential of this to move into the enterprise sector?
I don't think so. So this is my conclusion, and I think so. That might not be very rational for doing that, because most of the people saying that are only speculators, and they get that conclusion because of the bear market.
Okay. Now you mentioned, speculation, so that hope-driven mentality at the moment. Now we see a pegging factor, though. We see with the majority, if not all, of those startups that have, done their raise and they're now in the secondary market. Many of them are floundering, as is ETH and also BTC. We're seeing a general decline in the value, as you mentioned, with the bear. Now, how will you address this in the future so that you decouple that influence and that effect from BTC and ETH? Are you thinking long-term about stable coins, or are you thinking along the lines of some other mechanism that you build in so that you stand alone and you have your own value?
Yeah, so I think, so just like what we talked last interview, I think the only reason for your token to have a suitable price is that you have a real business, or you have profit or anything. So you have a real business to support it.
Right.
So not just a story. So a story cannot support the price.
Right.
A business can support the price.
Sure.
So I don't want to so using stories or to defend why
you have value. You want to get
So I want to use examples. So I think what I like to say is that, so in such a bear market, I really hope the communities can give us some time to build our real business, and to let us to show the community our real business that is really effective, and using the tokens. The tokens is really useful.
Right. Well, in that respect, obviously your focus is on proving utility. And I'm really genuinely mean that in the sense of proving adoption in enterprise sectors. So talk us through this, what I was saying before, this blockchain as service model. How are you building this out? What verticals are you focusing on to really address the needs of the market so you can really build Blockcloud globally?
Okay, so I think that sits on the real usage of Blockcloud. So why do people need Blockcloud? And if people really need it, so people need to use something to get it, right? And that something is Blockcloud tokens. So what we are doing is that, because Blockcloud is a layer 0 solution to improve the performance of current internet, so we are focusing on some vertical areas like edge computing, like IoT scenario, and also streaming services. Those scenarios all need a very reliable and good performed internet architecture that the current internet architecture sometimes cannot support it well. And so in those scenarios, people really need Blockcloud technology, and to enjoy the benefits of Blockcloud. So the customers or the end users need to use Blockcloud tokens as an oil, or to get the services, and the service providers will use the Blockcloud token to
interact
interact
And
with the customers. Yeah.
right. So in that respect, obviously the enterprise is a buzzword right now. Many of the top blockchains are building this in, as we're talking about. So how do you remove the currency itself from the equation of discussion? Because if you're internally utilizing that as a means of oil or fuel, how does it not function in some way as almost a utilito currency, something that has a marker of value for that internal ecosystem?
Yeah, and that's a very good question, and I think that's the problem that many utility token projects are facing. Yeah, so what we are going to do is that we are designing a innovative economy model. So two perspectives. One is to peg our the price of the tokens to the profits, but we are not making it to a security token, but to somehow let the price of those tokens to have some relationship with our real profit.
Okay.
And another,
so that means the growth correlates with the value of the token.
Yes.
That's important.
Yeah. And so that's why people should will be happy to hold our tokens, because we are really making profits, and they can get the profits if they hold our tokens and use our tokens. And another thing,
but just want to interrupt there. You know, when we talk about HODL, that implies some sort of security. But what you're really saying is holding that pre-utility, because utility is paramount. When utility is operational, that pre-utility value becomes more valuable. Right, that makes sense.
And also we are we are also having some more innovative ideas, but it's not mature yet. So maybe I can talk about it next time. So
yes, that would be great. That would be great. Now, what about with regard to your key developments of late? Now, it's been a little while since we've spoken. What are some of the most important things you want to let the community know with regard to the developments that you've made in the recent months?
So the most significant result is that codec is being tested, and we are currently happy with the test results. And I think we will deliver our promise that people will definitely enjoy or at least enjoy see the testnet released this year.
Okay. Now, we will talk about the roadmap in detail later on in the interview, but with regard to IoT, I want to talk about that briefly. There's discussion of by 2020, 20 billion users, are going to be engaging in this vertical. Is this more of that confirmation that you're on the right track in trying to direct your focus into that vertical of IoT?
I think that's one of the reasons, but it is not the only reason. I think the most important reason is that it is the trend. So we need to meet the trend, right? Yeah. So the internet first, the personal computers was the most important thing for the internet. Later is the mobile phone, and what's the next? So I think the next is IoT, and we need to get prepared before it happens.
Right, which is what you're doing in building the infrastructure. Now, let's talk about some of the specifics that you've really looked at for use cases. You've looked at verticals like health, smart homes, automotive, computing, shared economy. Just give us some samples, some evidence of where Blockcloud's moving, with proof that there are companies knocking on your door.
Okay, so I can't let use the company we just talked as an example. So
But you
what?
can't tell
Uh,
me.
yeah, but I can tell you the use case. So it's about smart home. So and that company provides a lot of smart home devices, like smart TV and smart uh, uh, air conditioner and smart boxes that control those smart devices. Yeah, and that devices currently is cannot be well interconnected using current internet architecture. So what Blockcloud is doing is that they use Blockcloud as their layer zero solution for improving the interconnections of those devices
I
to
see.
get a reliable connections between them and to guarantee the credibility of the devices so that one smart TV, if it shares the contents with another smart TV, so you can know that the another TV is credible,
Yeah.
not fake or malicious.
Makes a
Okay.
lot of sense
Yeah.
because you're building in trust into those interconnections of
Yeah.
your
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
of the
And
for those devices.
originally, that credibility guarantee cannot be achieved in layer zero. It can only be achieved in the application layer. But now we are pushing it down to make it fundamentally supported at the layer zero.
So in the bedrock, if we use the analogy of the house, which we've done before, the concrete contains the trust and you're the concrete. Now, are there any other platforms like you, literally platforms in the analogy, that are doing layer zeros, even in China? Let's start there, that you're aware of. I'm aware of one I've read into called Bloxroute, but is there anything that's really got the mainstay connections, power, potential, enterprise connections? Anyone you're concerned about?
I think so. I think there are some teams doing this kind of work. Frankly, I don't think we are the only team doing that. But I think we are the strongest team doing that.
Okay. Now, I'm not sure how you can make that claim. Have you done assessments of the other teams, or you just feel that because of the size of your team?
I think so. I can for some proofs first. So from first, this is a very hard technology and very difficult area, and I believe we have the most strongest researchers, scientists, and engineers in this space. Because so if you want to see the proof, you can see our publications of our team. So we got so many world-class publications and also efforts in industries in these areas in the past.
Right. And also,
Yeah.
it's one thing to have that really outstanding academic team, and you really do have it. I've seen it. I've looked into the credentials and they're there. But then do they have the ability to translate that into actuality, into proof? Because we've seen last year that many of the professorships or many of the, those who were listed on the white paper were really there just for lip service. So are you guys the real deal in the proof? How can we know you're making that progress collectively as this powerhouse of a team?
Sorry, so I didn't quite follow you for the last.
The question was more about how can we ensure that it's not just about the theoretical value, but the praxis is there, the proof in the application of all these skill sets that your team brings to the table. How can we know that each of them are really building out this into the strength and the powerhouse that Blockcloud is?
Okay, so according to the past, we are not only academic people, but we have been involved in the internet industry for so many years. So you can, so everyone can see our profile and know the past experience of our team. And for the future, I think we will let the world know our real product in the near future.
And are you expanding the team as well, Zhongxing? Are you building this out?
You mean, so am I still expanding our team?
Yes. Given that you've raised funds from your ICO, are you still building and hiring more people to expand the network of technologists?
We are, but we are not. We are still hiring people, but we only hire the most talented one and the strongest one. We are not. We are doing it in rationale. We are not. So I know there are some projects raised a lot of money and they suddenly hire about 100 people to expand. I don't think it's right. So I think we should do it gradually, and make the team reliable and stable, and we only hire the best people.
Sure, makes a lot of sense. And obviously there's only a limited amount of funds. You want it to last a long time. Let's go there for a moment with the bear. Now, you raised, at the time, you had a private sale of a total of 80 million. And of that, you raised specifically 15 million in the ICO. Is that correct?
The total fundraising was 15 million US dollars. We raised 12 million US dollars for private sale, and that accounts for 15% of the all Blockcloud tokens.
Sure, and so that's based on the 1.5 billion tokens in total. Now, you, as we talked about, you only raised a percentage of that. What's happened with those funds? Did you convert them to fiat, and have you got a runway now to continue for the next few years? What's the plan?
Because of the bear market, we did lose some because of the bear market, but we cashed out most of them timely. So now we are still very safe.
Okay.
We are not running out of money.
For how long, Zhongxing? How long are you safe for?
At least 2 years.
Okay. Now let's talk about revenue. Perfect segue, because within that 2-year period, you're going to need to make money. That's the reality. So talk us through, that concern or, that plan.
Currently, the contract with the company we just
referenced, yes.
We just referenced is about among 500,000 to 1 million US dollars. That's the first contract, and if we get it, so at least we can get those amounts. And I think in the year of 2019, we are very likely to get revenue from 2 million US dollars to 5 million US dollars.
And do you think congratulations for those estimates? I really mean that, because a lot of people are saying that 2020 is the real start of revenue generation, but you're proving early is possible. Now, next year and the year on, do you suspect that this revenue will increase each year in, year out?
You mean 2020?
Yes, and beyond. Do you expect year in, year out?
I think so, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, congratulations. Are there any other companies that you're currently discussing figures with as well?
Yes.
Okay. Hence, you could explain that estimate.
So we after we sign the contract, I will let you know the name.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm really looking forward to knowing more about that, because that really changes the game for Blockcloud. It really does. Because that's when you become that legitimate utility token in with its functionality and operation. Exchanges. Obviously, you haven't listed yet. You have dare I say investors, but let's say investors in your utility, a bit of a paradox. They would want to know what the plan is there. You're in a bear market. Obviously, you're concerned right now. What are you thinking for the future?
We are very respectful to our investors, and we understand we should do something for that. And we have done a survey to most of our onboard investors. According to their opinions, most of them do not suggest us list soon because of the bear market.
Right.
But we are seriously considering the possibility of exchanges for the first half of this year. And it's not guaranteed because the market is changing. It's always changing dramatically.
Right.
But I just want the investors and the community know that we are really seriously considering the market condition and the possibility of being listed, and we have kept talking to many exchanges, and we have some contracts with some exchanges.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Are some of them large exchanges, not just those initial exchanges where sometimes it's just for a short-term period, and then when you switch to
we need to observe the market condition.
Now, just to clarify as well, will you be your own native token upon listing?
For now, I don't think so. It would be ERC20.
Okay, and then it will switch later.
Yes.
Okay. Now, it's obviously crypto winter. We discussed the situation in China. With roadmaps, you have a few plans with regard to SDKs and networking APIs, commercial applications. Can you tell us a bit about those? What are you most excited about for Q1 2019?
For Q1 2019, and I think we can have some test or alpha users for our block explorer and our wallet.
Okay, so again, there are key features for functionality, for using, for integrating. Are you going to have incentivized reward systems to really encourage people to interact and use them?
I think so. So maybe not now, but it's definitely our plan because it's the spirit of it's also the spirit of blockchain and crypto.
Well, hopefully you can update me more because this is Q1, some of these key features. What about with regard to references to your IoT chip? That's on the list for 2019. Your IoT chip for enterprise, that's referenced on Q1 as one of the lists. And also your API and mobile SDKs. How is all these tools essentially? How are they putting?
It's being tested, and the enterprises we just referenced is going to use some of them.
Right. Okay. Now, just one final thing. I do understand you need to go. I've noticed that you're ambassador for some of the global areas. Nathan is doing a great job just, moving around in the different social spheres, letting people know about Blockcloud. You also have Telegram of 38,000, Twitter 8,000. Things are moving along steadily for you there. What's the next strategy for really expanding these markets into the mainstream? Into areas beyond crypto?
Oh, that's a very good question, and that's exactly what we are doing now. And for one thing, currently we are talking to many the traditional medias, not just the crypto medias.
Right.
Yeah. And also, because we have a number of traditional VCs, not just crypto capitals invested us, so they are helping us to expand our exposure in the traditional industry, not just the crypto space.
Right, and that's good to know. So some of your VCs are actually doing stuff, not just providing that capital. I did want to ask you, did some of your traditional VCs also invest in you because they want to use you as a true utility? Because if that's true, that's even more exciting because they plan to work with you to use your token for business.
There is.
Okay, that's really exciting because once again, that reinforces that value. Zhongxing, I know you're busy and it's been a rushed interview in some respects, and because you do have to go, I really appreciate your time today. Is there anything you want to add that is really important for the community to know with regard to updates, with regard to key aspects of value for Blockcloud?
I think in this really very dark and cold winter, we need to hold our hope. So the darkest nights produce the brightest stars. So
very well said. That's a great metaphor, I think, to finish up on. I really do appreciate your time. If you'd like to know more, obviously there are different channels that you can go and look into. There's the Medium. They do upload information there. More importantly, there is an active Telegram. It's quite substantial. Thank you very much, Zhongxing, for your time. The things to remember from this interview are you really are pushing for the BaaS. The blockchain is even more so. It's the web of service. It's moving into that domain of utility for a new web. You're reframing that with new fundamental dual consensus mechanisms, and you're doing it in such a way where you're using a team that's second to none. Quite simply, if you do go and explore these, credentials are there, universities are backing them, and the governments, local governments, as we've learned, are also getting on board. So stay tuned for more with Blockcloud. Zhongxing and I will look into this further in a subsequent interview. But until then, thank you very much for your time, Zhongxing. I've really appreciated it tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Brad. Thank you so much.